welcome to another edition of South Pacific Muscle. Today I'm on holiday, so nice little background there. Beautiful place here in Dunedin. Look, tonight, Mike, we've got a guest on, Alkadhi, and he's a lifetime natural lifter. He's done a fair bit of bodybuilding, a bit of powerlifting, even got himself involved in Strongman. Born in Iraq, but lived most of his life up in the mighty Waikato. So I think without further ado, we should bring Ali in and have a bit of a rap with him, eh?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a good chat with him.
Absolutely. Look, I'll get him on now, eh?
Sure.
Welcome, Ali. Good to get you on here. How you been?
Thanks, mate. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm living the dream, man. Yeah, I'm enjoying life. I'm enjoying training, and yeah, low stress in my life right now.
I love to hear that, man. That's what we want to hear. Hey, look, how about you tell those people out there a bit about yourself, because all I've really done is done a real brief intro saying you're a lifetime natural lifter. Let's hear a bit about yourself, Ali.
Yeah, so, well, my name's Ali, and I like to lift a lot of weight. So I started off doing bodybuilding just out of, just sheer insecurity. I was bullied at school, and I wanted to get some attention from the females, but I also wanted to get respect from the bros as well. And then over time, it kind of just started to chase progress, I guess. You know, I stopped caring about what people think. I didn't get any success with the girls, and the bros didn't care anyway, you know? So it's like, oh, whatever, I'll just pursue this. I'm seeing results, and I think with anything in life, if you see results, you'll enjoy it. And then I did some competitions in bodybuilding, and, in 2014, Geordie Shields just, he messaged me saying, hey, why don't you try powerlifting? I thought, hey, may as well. I've got an okay bench press. Let's just try that. And when I tried that, the strength bug bit me. And
is that with Geordie back in GPC days?
Yeah. So it's GPC days. So I started off in GPC. I did 2 comps in GPC, and then there just wasn't enough competition in my class. There was Dhiren Dunraj, and he was a formidable competitor. And he whipped me big time, but it was just me and him in that weight category. So I did an IPF comp, and it was like a club comp. So it was like a novice comp, but there was 36 guys, and I'm proud of this. I managed to win my class and win the overall. So I was like overall best lifter. So I was very happy, because I thought like, hey, I can win an overall bodybuilding, but with strength, I don't think that's ever going to happen. So I somehow lucked out and snatched one. I mean, it's not the world record or anything, but it's still something for me that I hold over my head, like, yeah.
So it's amazing, eh, that, I had exactly the same feelings when I started powerlifting. I was a pretty skinny kid. And I remember, I think my first competition, I weighed 75 and I benched 75, and I thought, wow, I'm probably never going to be great at this. And I stuck at it. And I think just through sheer determination, you get there. Yeah.
You'll surprise yourself. Like, I think if you just go back to the very start, like, you can't, it's just amazing how you get to where you are right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's mind-blowing,
Who were your early mentors in the powerlifting scene?
That's a good question. So it was, so Jordan got me into it. He didn't really train me or anything, but he kind of just got me to try it. And then I went and talked to Dan from Kiwi Strength.
Yep.
And he was very helpful. Like, he's shout out to him. He's a really nice guy. He's very helpful. Gave me a little programming here and there. And then there was also people in the gym. I'm not sure if you know them, but like Sen Chung Kong and Tawa Campbell, like the strength community is really nice. They're just willing to help. And I've noticed, like, in competitions, they whether they're in your class or not, they egg you on. They just want you to succeed. Well, in bodybuilding, not to talk negatively, but in the back room, in the backstage, we're just eyeing each other out. Like, oh, I've got him in the legs, or he's got me in condition. My side chest's better, or his triceps are way bigger. It's kind of like that. I think that's because we're so depleted. Like, we spent all this time, we better win. You know what I mean? While the other one, we're still having fun. Nothing's changed. Diet's the same, more or less. So it's kind of like, whatever, just go
potentially
for it.
Potentially that's around it being a subjective sport. You're being judged subjectively on how you look. Whereas in powerlifting, it's all about the numbers, right? If you can outlift someone, there's no subjective aspect to that. You know, whoever gets the biggest numbers wins the comp. So, you know, it's probably
Yeah,
a
I
bit more
agree,
supportive.
Mike. I agree. Yeah, 100%. Well said.
Okay, so you know your powerlifting was about 214 from memory. Then you'd been already doing 7 years sort of bodybuilding from 2007, and then you made the big step into my favourite of the three sports. You got there and you had a crack at Strongman. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so what happened with, funny story how I got into Strongman. So I did decent in powerlifting. Well, here's the thing, like with powerlifting, it's all about 1 rep max, right? But for some reason, I kept mucking around and doing things like sets of 8 or sets of 5. I found that for myself very like impressive, I guess you could say. So I tried, like, I finally managed like 4 plates, like 180 kilo back squat with 8 reps, 140 bench press with 8 reps, 220 deadlifts with 8 reps. And then I thought, like, this is, I'm doing pretty well for a 76 kilo guy. But then later I realized translating that to 1 rep max is a different ball game. And then I went to the gym with a friend of mine who just got into lifting. He was a rugby player, and I beat him in the squat, bench, and deadlift when we were training. But he told me, let's try some overhead presses. And then I tried it, and we both lifted the same weight, like 70 kilos. He got 4 reps, I got 3 reps. And I was like, dude, you can't be strong. Powerlifting, you can't be, you're not strong. Like, let's just see what else there is. And then I found Strongman, and there was just, it tests you in different ways, grip, speed, just a plethora of things, and it just uncovers your weaknesses.
What I really
and it's
enjoyed,
not so biased towards the lower body.
yeah.
Like if you're good with squats and deads, you basically kind of win. While I was just good at bench press and had like decent squats and deadlifts.
Yeah, and it's also, I guess, like that static strength versus having to move objects and actually have a bit of fitness. And I guess, when you talked about doing the 5 reps and the 8 reps rather than doing just that low rep range and go for 1 rep max, it's the variety that Strongman offers that was always attractive to me. Every competition, different set of events, different style of training for that particular event, and your programming going into it.
100%, Nate. I agree with that, and that's what I love. That's why I'm still doing strongman and not powerlifting. And not to be negative about powerlifting, but like sometimes I can't justify paying money to compete when I'm doing the same thing at home. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know it's not elite plates, and I know it's not elite bars, and there's no ref, but like with strongman, it's always different. And if I practice the farmer's carry here, I might suck at the actual comp because it'd be a different implement. While the people get elite
how much fun do you have when you turn up to a comp and they've got this really cool piece of kit that you've never had a go on, and you know that in your 8 weeks coming up to it, you're just itching to have a go on their one to see how good you really are.
Exactly. Yeah, like the Conan's wheel, I can't train for that. Hercules holds, I can't train for that. So it's like you just show up on the day and just hope for the best, and that's what keeps me going, man. I just love it, and I love the fact that it kind of forces you, like, survival of the fittest. Like, it'll say like in 8 weeks you have this, you're going to do 224 reps on the deadlift. It's like, if you can't do that, well, too bad. Well, in powerlifting, like, what, my back kind of hurts, I'm just going to try 160 and see, you know what I mean? But with strongman, it's like, nah, this is the weight.
Hey,
and it gets you to train harder.
As much as I can talk about strongman all day, most recently you guest posed and competed at the Natural Nationals. Tell us about your experience there. Yeah,
sure. So the guest pose, that's just an inside joke because my conditioning. So usually I bring in a decent level of leanness, but this time around, I just did a 6 weeks prep because I just looked at the calendar and I thought, hey, you live in Hamilton. This show's in Hamilton, and you don't need to like qualify. It's just you just enter. So, dude, just do it. Who cares? So I did 2 weeks of dieting, and after the 2 weeks of dieting, I told myself, nah, you always bring a great package. Don't spoil it. Like, don't just come in mediocre. So I quit for 2 weeks, and then Brian McFarlane shouted in the last 2 weeks before the comp. He shouted me saying like, it's going to be so nice to see this guy back on stage. And then a friend of mine who's doing the comp said, I'm so glad you're doing it, because if you weren't, I would have quit. This is so hard. And it just made me feel so guilty. I was like, bro, just do it.
I'm looking at Mike here. I'm looking at Mike and listening to you talking about doing a 6 week diet and having 2 weeks off the diet. where I know that both of us generally diet for 20 weeks, and that sounds like an absolute dream.
Yeah, I stay relatively lean in the off season. Like, so I sit around 73, 75, and my competition rate 63, 65. So I entered at 70.6. So like it was about 50% of my maximum, I guess you could say. So I had a bit of size compared to what I usually have, but I was pretty soft as well. Usually I come into a pretty lean glutes and stuff, and this is why I opted for the classic physique, so I can hide the glutes, and it's biased towards me as well because I've got a relatively small waist, not in this comp because I still need to lose 5 kilos, but I've got a relatively small waist. My lats are my strongest points, and quads are okay, and I can kind of pose, so it's like, oh yeah, just do it. And yeah, so I ended up going against Don, and he's so impressive, man. Like, for older guy, just it definitely motivated me to train even harder because I wanted to look like that at 50, or just be in my best shape at 50, you know?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, do you want to fire away? We're going to hit you with some quick fire questions. Just get your response to those. I'll pass over to Mike.
Sure.
Yeah, so most of the guys that we have on, or so far, that we've had on so far are pro bodybuilders. So I think a lot of people are interested in the variation, the differences in the way you may diet or train compared to them. We'll get into your training in a little bit more depth a bit later, but I'll fire the quick fire ones at you. But first off, so how tall are you?
I am 5'6.5". I'm 169 centimeters.
Okay, sure. And you can normally compete around the 63, 64 kilos for bodybuilding. Yeah, cool. All right,
Yes,
so
yes,
so let's start with off season. Dirty bulk or stay lean? What's your preference?
Stay
Dirty
lean.
bulk or stay lean?
Stay
Some
lean.
of your Instagram photos I saw of you off season, I was surprised that you said you lose 10 kilos to compete. You didn't look that far off, but yeah, you do stay pretty lean in the off season.
Makes a big difference, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah.
So diet in the off season: high protein, high carb, or high fat?
I know I can only choose one, so I'll say high carb, but I do high fat and high carb, and so my protein's always low.
Oh, yeah, nice. Yeah, that's interesting. Now, when you train, sounds like you train with intensity. The normal question is volume or intensity. With your powerlifting and strongman background, I imagine it's intensity.
It's intensity, Mike, just because I feel like once you get to a certain level, I'm not saying I'm an expert or anything, but I've been doing this for a while, and I feel like the more volume, I just get beat up, and my sleep's not the greatest because I've got a 2-year-old, you know, and just other life stresses. So intensity.
And so in the off season, when you're bulking, do you carb cycle? Do you do mini cuts, or do you just keep pushing the food to try and get your weight up?
No, I just keep pushing. Yeah, just keep it simple.
Push the food. Yeah. You're not too worried about insulin sensitivity or anything like that. You can just keep pushing the food up.
No, yeah. So that's all that stuff's pretty interesting. I'll give you my take on it a bit later. But like, yeah, I just keep it as simple as possible, so I don't really worry about stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. Okay, now cutting pre-competition. Do you cut hard and fast, or do you tend to come in slow?
Nah, slow is always the best. You just maintain your strength, and I'm a firm believer. I know it's a little bit more nuanced than that, but like if you can retain the majority of your strength, chances are you retain the majority of your muscle.
Yeah. Now, when you do have to sort of tip the calorie balance, do you tend to do more cardio or start cutting the food?
More steps. Yeah, more steps. I just love my food, and I just it's the most rewarding thing, especially when you're that depleted, man. So I don't want to take away any food.
Yeah. Now, do you try and keep your training heavy right up until the show, or do you tend to up the volume in the later stages?
No, I keep it heavy, but I kind of listen to my body. So, I mean, my sets tend to drop off. So if it gets really hard and I used to do 5 sets, I'm like, hey, let's try 3 sets. That's too much, 2 sets, or 1 set even.
Yeah. All right, so now we'll try and dig a little bit deeper into some of your training, and feel free to kind of take your answers in the direction you like, explain anything in any way you feel the need. But first question is your body fat. My notes here were that you look like you stay relatively close to your competition weight, but you're saying you're 10 kilos. Do you tend to keep your diet pretty tidy in the off season to try and keep that weight down? Are you still trying to bulk to put on more size? Where are you at with your off season training?
So with my off season, yeah, like I don't really focus too much on weight gain because I feel like I just get diminishing returns. So I do get stronger and stuff, but generally when I when I start to cut back down, I kind of generally look the same more or less. So I just focus on giving myself relative strength goals. So I'll stay around 73, 75, and I'll aim for, hey, I want to do a 2 times bodyweight bench press for as much reps as I can, or a 3 times bodyweight deadlift for as much reps as I can. In terms of the food in the off season, I always track my calories. I just love that habit. Unless if I'm forced to go out, like for a barbecue or a dinner date or something like that, then I let go of that. But if I have the scale here and I got the raw ingredients, I love just measuring. It's just, I've got a notebook right by my scale. I write it down, then I come to the computer and put that in my MyFitnessPal, whatever thing I'm doing, and yeah, go from there.
I use MyFitnessPal myself, try and keep food, the same amount of food in all the time, and then add on top of that in the off season, you know, when you get out for meals and so on.
Yeah, you can adjust accordingly to progress. So
yeah. So your training looks like you train fairly heavy in the off season with your strongman and powerlifting background. That seems to be the case. I see some pretty impressive deadlifting going on there, and that's potentially why you've ended up with the muscle density you have. You've got really impressive legs. So your heavy squatting and deadlifting, is that what you'd attribute your muscle density and your size to, all that heavy strongman training?
yeah, I believe it is, mate. And like, I feel like just over time, that's how you get that muscle maturity, is just lifting heavy. Yeah, I've always just been fascinated. I don't know why this is. To some people, this is nothing, but I just want to squat 4 plates comfortably for reps and deadlift 5 comfortably for reps. The deadlifts I can, but the squats, it's like I have to have everything under the sun right to do that. So, and I guess, thank you for the leg compliment, because I look at them and I feel like, man, they could always be bigger. As soon as I hit a lat spread or something, they just become tiny. You know, they're good on their own, but as soon as I hit a upper body shot, I'm just not impressed. So
hey
it's
Ali,
a work in progress for
got
me.
a question for you, Ali. I've seen your setup at home. You got a pretty impressive home setup. Are you training full time at home, and if so, how long have you been doing that for?
Yeah, so I started to invest in a home gym when I got married, because I spend most of my time at the gym, not just lifting, but I hang out with the boys, just talk trash and whatnot. So I thought, I can't do this when I'm going to be a family man, you know? So I started to invest in the gym, and majority of my powerlifting career, I just did it there. And with bodybuilding, I gym hopped, but then last year when I came back to Hamilton, I lived in Auckland for 5 years. I thought, mate, you've got a home gym. Just make the most of that. Stop paying for membership. Like, you need to save money and just improvise. And I started to improvise. I just have barbells. Only recently did I invest in adjustable dumbbells, but I've got everything except for the leg press and cables, basically.
Wow, nice. Yeah, look, that power cage is pretty adaptable, and you can do a lot of work in there. You know, everything from your squats, front squats, etc., rack pulls, shoulder pressing in there. So real adaptable piece of kit. Hey, look, you'd mentioned being a family man, and I know you're very happily married, and you've got a toddler, a 2-year-old. Now, tell me about managing, because I know for myself and Mike, we sort of pulled away from that sport a bit when we had young ones. How do you manage competing and dieting, etc., when you've got, a young child in the house, and all the responsibilities that come with that?
Yeah, so I'll start off by saying, by nature, just being honest, I'm pretty selfish. So I just had to figure out a way before my son came to this world. How am I going to maintain this without upsetting anyone and without sacrificing time with him? And that's how I started to really think. Like, so before, we all started off like with a very strict sort of diet, and I'm pretty sure we all evolved with our eating and nutritional habits. So I was very into the whole, if it fits your macros, But I told myself, you can't be playing Tetris with macros while your wife's about to drop the baby. It's just not conducive at all, and it's just not practical. So I started to really just think about calories, just calories. Forget protein, forget carbs, forget fats. Just eat. And what's good about the home gym as well is I just have it in the garage, and I can see where my wife is sitting, breastfeeding little Sammy there. So I do a set, and I come back like, hey, do you need me? Nah, go back to another set. Come back, you need me? Yeah, hold him. And then, so it's kind of like that. And I started to, at the start it was pretty scary, because like, we're very fixated on getting our workout done as a whole. But then it taught me like, hey, I can split this up. It's not the end of the world. And once you try some new things, at the start it's scary, but once you try and see some success or don't see any change negatively, like, oh, cool, this is great.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm
suppose,
thankful for my son
like,
for.
I mean, I've always thought about that with dieting, like, for example, where I've got a calorie deficit to meet at the end of the week, but I've got to make sure I get that food in, that if I miss half of a meal because I'm rushing to a meeting, I'll just add that into the next one. But I've never thought it from a training perspective to go, well, if I've got 2 sets of bench done, I can do another set after I finish doing the jobs around here. Interesting.
Yeah, and he's taught me as well, like he's forced me to not muck around so much. And what I mean by muck around is, so I used to do the whole foam rolling and stretching and stuff. So I'll give an example, and people like always like, what? So I'll just put like 170 kilos on the deadlift. That's my warm up for 2 reps. And then I'll do 200 for 2 reps, and then it's my working set. But right now I've dropped my weight back. So just the 170 for 2 reps, then get into my working set, and that kills.
Wow.
That saves a lot of time. Sorry, not kills. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, look,
if you can do that at our age, I'll be mightily impressed. Tell me when you're 46 that you can walk in and do one warm up and then you're into it. Sorry, Mike, interrupt you.
No, that's fine. I guess it's not about me, but my advice, because I've got 3 young children myself, 10, 8, and 5, and I'm kind of just getting back into the hardcore training now. But I believe that it's good for your kids to see you striving to meet your own goals. If they feel like they're the centre of the universe and you live entirely for them, it gives them a distorted perspective on the world and reality. So I think balancing out having your own goals and them seeing you strive for your own goals is important for them to see too, because they learn by copying. And if they see you striving to be your best, hopefully they'll pick up a little bit of that. Or that's how I justify taking time out to train and diet myself. So
no, you've got a point. You've got a point, and I agree, mate. And like, as much as I love my son and wife and stuff, you still need that time for yourself. This is still important to you. This is what you love. This is what makes you like feel at peace, I guess, right? Once you get a workout done, you just feel at peace and stuff. And people might think it's just weight and you're being vain and stuff. And part of it is, I mean, I'm always posting on Instagram and stuff, but even if I didn't have any of that, like I just love training and I just feel mellowed out. It's my
there's a
addiction,
lot of talk about mindfulness and meditation. I believe that mindfulness is about being in the moment, and there's nothing more being in the moment than when you're getting under a 180 kilo squat or underneath a 140 kg bench. So it's really good for your mental sanity to just be in the moment. It's our mindfulness, I guess.
Yeah, agreed 100%.
Hey, look, do you want to just give us a talk about some of your general philosophies on training, your general philosophies on nutrition, and how you see that they've benefited you, and I guess particularly in the context of being a natural athlete, because, like Mike will have seen it a lot, guys that are enhanced, look, there's a bunch of those guys that train absolutely everything they've got. There's a bunch of naturals that train everything they've got. There's a bunch of enhanced athletes that rely on the ability to grow and get away with eating a lot of crap, and that because they are enhanced. You don't generally see a lot of natural lifters that anyone takes any notice of that can do that, because it's a different ball game. So I'm really interested in that as a natural athlete, how you structure your training, what you and also your philosophy behind it, because I think that gives a really good insight.
Yeah, sure. So I'll start off by saying that before in the past, I've changed my mind about this. I used to think that the enhanced way is like the easy, cop out sort of way, but like I've got new respect for it, because I feel like the natural way is the easier way. It's not very complex, So how I think of it is, it's all about calories. I've tried it all. I've tried chicken and broccoli. I've tried to fit your macros, and I feel like as long as you hit some minimums, and I'll explain what these minimums are. So if you get between 1.6, 2.2 times your body weight in protein, and I always aim for the lower end, just because that'll allow me to have more carbohydrates, more fats for training, for hormonal output, everything like that, more micronutrients. And as long as I hit, around 10 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories. So, if I'm eating 3,000 calories, that's 30 grams of fiber. And if that comes from things like fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, grains, stuff like that, then that means I'm getting a good amount of vitamins and minerals. So I'm not missing out on anything. Because if we just focus on calories, well, we can cheat that by just having whatever we want, you know what I mean? Like we could just have McDonald's or ice cream or all that stuff. So I still fit that in, but I make sure I hit those minimums first.
Do you supplement your diet with I guess supplements and or / protein powders and things like that, or are you more of a whole foods kind of guy?
Yeah, so I started off doing supplements like protein and stuff, but right now what I do is creatine monohydrate. I have vitamin D because I believe you just really can't get that from diet. You know, just go out from the sun, get it from the sun, and fish oil because I don't really eat that much fish. But to be honest, I really should substitute and eat fish like once or twice a week. But that's about it. So I winning that overall. I got a tub of protein and a box of protein bars, but they haven't been opened yet. I'm saving them for a special occasion, I guess. Like I don't need them because I'm having around 100 grams to 125 grams of protein a day, which is like blasphemy in terms of the bodybuilding or any lifting. Well, but it works for me. Like, you know what I mean? Because I truly believe, like, because they say like protein will help you grow and repair and stuff. I feel like it's a trifecta thing. So if your sleep, your training, modality, and your nutrition is on sync, that's when you repair. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can have as much protein as I want, but if I'm not getting enough sleep, I'm not gonna repair or grow, and vice versa, I guess. But I just hit the minimum protein, get enough fiber to make sure that I'm healthy and getting a good, like, you know, just getting that minimum protein, and then the rest I'll fill up with whatever I want, basically, which is probably not the best thing to say, but it works for me, and it gives me an easy life, and it gives me a way to enjoy my life outside the gym. So before, if I was focusing on macros, I'd go to the restaurant and say, I only have 20 grams of fat left. What can I eat? You know, and it's just not fun. It's just not fun. And I don't want to eat steak with the missus. I want to eat burgers or pasta and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like,
interesting you talk about fun and you know, to me, when you take the fun out of it, you lose such a huge amount of the reason why we're actually there. Because, you know, for a lot of us, we'd far rather go and have a good workout, shoot the crap with the boy, talk a bit about this and that and the training and, you know, a bit off topic stuff and banter, smash out a great workout, come home shattered and, you know, and rather than go out and, you know, spend all night at a nightclub or drinking beers with the boys or something. So, you know, like it becomes a social activity as well as a, you know, relaxation thing. And people say, how do you go to the gym? And my response to that one is always that, you know, I really enjoy it. If I didn't enjoy it, I'd find something else that I did enjoy. So you're right, you know, to focus on that, keep the fun in it.
Yeah. And then my training, I just like to, I feel like as a natty, and people always disagree with this, people always think you can make gains, but I just tell them, like, how far can you throw a ball? Like that baseball player or that cricket player, you know, when they started off, they can only throw it so far, but when they became better and better with their skill acquisition and just getting stronger, whatever it is, yeah, they improved their distance, but at some point, there's, you know, you're just pissing in the wind, really, you know. And I just think the same with, especially natural bodybuilding, like after 5 or 6 years of hard, like, training with intent, you know. What more can you do?
So
you know
I suppose, you know, I guess the question is, when you believe you've sort of hit that ceiling in terms of the amount of size your body can hold as an individual, then do you change your focus from trying to just gain mass as a whole concept to refining different aspects, so you're creating the physique that you actually want rather than just trying to get bigger for the sake of getting bigger?
Yeah, so like what I do now, because if I think about I want to make gains, I want to put an inch on my arms and stuff, I'm going to be sadly disappointed, you know? So what I do is I just give myself like strength goals and stuff. And I, you know, because my workout routine is 1 day on, 2 days off, 1 day on, 2 days off, that gives me enough time to just really get so amped up. Like, man, I've had 2 days off. I can't wait to deadlift. And I'll just replay it in my head and I'll execute the lift in my head. Like, I'll tell myself, well, we're going to do 231 kilos for 5. That's going to be a PB. I just play it in my head. I just imagine how it's going to feel on my hands, how hard it's going to be off the floor, blah, blah, blah. And all that imagery actually just helps. And when I come back to the gym to do it, it pretty much more or less the same. So it's pretty amazing, but that's what keeps me going. And like over time, I think that's where what Mike was saying, that's where the density and stuff just happened, just from me having fun and just chasing that, rather than saying I want my triceps bigger because that judge said it didn't match my hamstrings or whatever the case, you know. So I'm just, yeah, just I just do that one set.
I really like that point, and it's a learning point for me right now, because I used to do that, and I remember as a 20-year-old, 25-year-old, I would sit and think the day before, the hours before the gym. I would think about each lift, how that weight would feel going down, how it was going to explode off my chest, and I wouldn't have done that for 10 years now. So thank you very much for that. Look, that's a real good thing for me to reflect on, and you know, hopefully it can add to my progress in the gym. Mike, any thoughts about that visualization type stuff?
So is that over to me, Nate?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I part of my degree was sports psychology, and I just love that whole aspect of it. You know, the goal setting, the visualization, self-talk. You know, there's nothing more annoying than being in the middle of a set and having an outside thought come into your mind about work or about something that's, you know, it just pisses me right off. So I have to kind of get back, refocus. A lot of that is setting those routines, you know, and we do that naturally anyway. Before you get under that bench, generally there's a number of breaths, a hand positioning, a kind of visualization aspect to it. So yeah, absolutely crucial to getting the intensity that you kind of build that.
Yeah, and I firmly believe you have to believe it. You can't just make it up. You know what I mean? So if there's just a single doubt in my mind, like, you know, I'm not that motivated for the squats, over. Like, you can grind it out if you're lucky, but otherwise, yeah, wait till you actually feel like you really want to do it. That's how I do it these days. And 2 days off actually gives me that feeling that I want to get back and kill it.
I've just seen
That's
recently,
amazing that you do. Oh, sorry, mate.
I've just seen recently with a lot of the guys that I see as very, very successful, and I guess James Hollingshead's a great example. The other interview the other night with JP, you know, those guys truly believe, their self-belief is just unshakable, that they will achieve what they need to achieve, and they calculate all the little steps along the way. And that self-belief, I think, is a huge thing. It's probably, you know, as effective as any enhancement is ever going to be. You know, if you haven't got that self-belief, well, you're only going to be what you're going to be. Yeah,
look, I agree with that. And kind of going off topic, but my self-belief has always been I can and I have the ability and the natural fits to be Mr. New Zealand. Like, I feel like this time around I got a little bit lucky because my conditioning wasn't that great, but even if I didn't, I know at some point I can, and I know I can be pro, like natural pro. That's my belief. Whether that's next year, whether that's 10 years time, in my heart I just know that.
Mike, who are you thinking of? What bodybuilder are you thinking of when he's talking about that? Tell me you're not thinking Daniel Hibbs. So years ago, way back when I used to train in Christchurch, was a guy, Daniel Hibbs, and he eventually...
Yeah, I know Daniel.
I think he won Mr. New Zealand possibly twice. And he's gone on to be a pro. And look, that guy is a giant killer. You know, natural, lifetime natural, but just such a beautiful physique. And I think some of the natural guys have got that really nice, clean look that you just don't see. You just don't see that look with... you know, a lot of the enhanced guys just haven't got that look. They're not that fresh, really nice, crisp physique.
The South Island champs in '97, and he was competing under 70s. And man, yeah, he's got a fantastic shape. But he had these shredded glutes. And that was back in the 90s when we were, you know, cutting sodium 2 weeks out and not drinking water from about Tuesday and all that crazy stuff that the pros who are all on the gear were doing, you know, to try and get their water down. And I remember speaking to him backstage. I go, man, how do you get such shredded glutes? He goes, I don't dehydrate. I just keep drinking. And he was chopping litres of water backstage on show day, and he just had the driest, most shredded glutes, you know. And so that was a real eye-opener for me to kind of, there's plenty of different ways to skin a cat, you know.
I would be
and he's the most shredded person I've ever met, eh? Like, I met him in 2011, I believe, and he was just there, and even his off-season was, like, leaner than anyone on stage. And he's just so big.
I'm just imagining,
kilo guy, you know. Like,
imagine being backstage with him and you know, being dehydrated and some of the guys that have whipped down a Lasix or whatever, and you know, peeing treacle, and they've got no water, haven't touched water, and they're watching Daniel Hibbs with his glutes looking like that, pouring litres of water down his throat. Oh, it'd kill you. Hey, look, Ali, we want to have a look at your Instagram, so I'll bring up a couple of photos and I'll just share the screen, so bear with me. Right, we got that. So here's Ali's Instagram page, so if you want to follow him, Elite Pro Ali, and I've brought up a couple of pictures there, and a week ago now?
Yeah, a couple of weeks, I believe. Yeah, a couple of weeks, yeah.
Talk us through that one.
So this was the overall winners at the INBA Nationals. So here I am in the Classic Physique. So I was the overall winner. So I Mr. New Zealand for the Classic Physique INBA. So I'm very stoked about that. Yeah, it's a bit of an honor, kind of, you know. Very
Love
stoked.
the pose. Love the pose.
Yeah, pull out the lightning bolt.
Yeah. Great photo. Actually really suits you, that class. I think you really suit that class. You know,
it's very biased towards me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. Great photo. How's that?
Yeah, that was from a great pump. So
there's a man that can grow a chest rug.
Oh man, I miss my hair. That's one thing I don't like about competing. I hate getting rid of my body hair. It looks great, but I just don't like the feeling. In clothes, I can just feel everything. Getting in the bed sheets is just
nothing worse, when you put on a particular white shirt and you've got all these little bits of stubble going through your shirt. Bodybuilder problems.
Exactly, mate. Yeah, but that was from back day, or not back, from deadlifts, I think. Yeah. Just everything was pumped, and I just thought I'd just take a quick snap.
That's a fantastic V-taper for a man who deadlifts and squats so much.
Absolutely.
Nice that you keep your waist so narrow.
I think it gets a lot more narrow when I get to true stage conditioning, like 63, 65 kilos. But yeah, and then that just enhances everything else when my waist gets smaller, like lats look bigger, legs look better, so on and so forth.
Yeah. I guess, staying, relatively close to your weight, you're never really going to blow that waist out, so you keep that small waist. Whereas if you're like me, that likes to sort of get 25 kilos out of shape, different kettle of fish. But no, I like that photo. Really good photo.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Love that.
Yeah, that was at Snap Fitness. My friend invited me to come over, and I thought I'd take advantage of the lighting straight after the pump. They got most amazing downlighting in there. So sorry to anyone who hogged the bathroom. They need to use. I just needed to take some selfies.
Yeah. How far out from competitions that photo?
This was on a Tuesday, so I think it's like a couple of days after. But I haven't gained much weight after comp, so I competed at 70.6. Today I'm 71.1, so half a kilo. So I hover from half a kilo to a kilo right now, and I'm happy like this. Like, I'm not feeling any cravings. I'm not tired. I'm not food focused. I'm feeling good. So this is why I'm not true stage conditioning, because if that was the case, you need to eat, man, because all you think about is food. You're tired. Your strength is going down.
Right, one last one. Couldn't help myself. Love that photo. To me, that photo says you don't have to be out of shape to be a strong man. Show your serratus and that off with a great big Atlas stone in front of you.
Yeah, I think that was a 100 kilo Atlas stone. And the thing is, yeah, you're right. You don't have to get out of shape, but it definitely helps to put on weight for strength, So this is my problem. Yeah, I've never won a strongman comp, and that's one of my goals. But I just can't let go of the bodybuilder side of me, unfortunately.
Yeah, the particularly the events where you're moving objects, like a truck pull or something like that. That body weight, yeah, absolutely, certainly helps. But then there's always the opportunity to compete in some of the weight class events. So some of the overseas competitions. They've now got a number of divisions. I mean, when I did it, they only had the under 105 and the heavyweight, but then they introduced a 90 class. And I see at some events they've got a lighter class still. So, that might be in the future for you.
Right now, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, under 80s. I'm doing it right now, and the best I ever got was second. So I was very close to first. So I'm hoping in 3 weeks time, I'm doing South Auckland Strongest Man, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I can tick off best overall powerlifter, 2 overall bodybuilding wins. I can finally say I won a strongman comp, and I can focus back on bodybuilding full time.
That's a CV right there, man. You've got a complete CV. Hey, look, guys, we're going to bring it to a close. I really want to thank you, Ali, for coming and joining us. Fascinating chat today. Some real cool stuff in there. Some really nice, sort of deep, reflective sort of stuff that, you know, like we don't often get to chat about. So I appreciate your input and your insights. I've certainly got some takeaway points today. Mike, any closing words?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks very much for coming on, Ellie. It's been really interesting speaking to you. I was wondering, is there anything that you want to promote or push? Have you got any sponsors you want to talk about? Your work that's been very accommodating for your dieting? Anything that you want to shout out to?
I just want to shout out to New Zealand Strongman series. They've been doing an amazing job. They're the best strongman federation I've ever competed in. Also want to shout out Fit Figures. That's a gym here. They're very accommodating to all the bodybuilders. And yeah, I just want to say thank you to you guys, because I honestly don't feel like I never thought I'd get to come on here, because I've only seen the greats like Tommy Guns, I think it is, and yeah, just all these greats. So it's an honor to be here, man, and thank you so much.
We brought you on because you know, like I've watched you, I've followed your progress on Instagram, and you know, you're a pocket rocket, man. You do some really impressive stuff. But I like your attitude, and I've listened to you talk a lot, and today's, you know, only heightened that. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
And for everyone out there, look, if you want more of this content, please follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll keep this stuff coming. Plenty more interviews coming up. And in the meantime, stay safe. Look after your peeps out there. Good night.
Peace out.
Bye.